The Asperia Prowler is one of the most buggy ships in Star Citizen. It also has some of the most unique mechanics of any ship in Star Citizen. Once upon a time, it used to be the most broken ship in Star Citizen, so much so that in a combination of that and its bugs, it was actually removed from Squadron Battle in Arena Commander and never added back to it again. I wanted to just document and go through a whole bunch of videos because I'm almost out of hard drive space and need to make sure I keep Battlefield 6 installed on my PC for the next beta next week. So I want to get these out, that way people who can probably put all this data together in a more concise format and maybe show other people how to do some of these really cool tricks can do so if they want to, in case they didn't know how to do them. Or some of the tricks, some of them is you can access your gunner seat in your pilot. You can be your own gunner. You have access to VTOL thrusters that double as the opposite, increasing your down strafe. It also has decoupled pitch, yaw, roll. It has access to decoupled boost to your afterburners. It has a lot of wacky mechanics that I think are really cool that I really hope that CIG keeps in the game because how unique they are of any game I've played before. Maybe it needs some balancing in the stuff, sure, but I think it needs more testing by the community before we do things like that. But these are such cool features. I really hope that CIG notices them and doesn't just consider them bugs or legacy features that need to be removed and unsupported, but rather really lean into them, into adding a depth and character to the experience. And also make them easier to do. Because right now I'm using a very clever use of key bindings to do some of these things. You can notice I'm constantly swapping my VTOL thrusters on and off, and I'm constantly swapping into my gunnery seat. You notice I have the 2025 VJoy, my turret's able to shoot really high up, and in a situation like this, when the opponent gets behind me, I'm able to decouple my pitch and yaw as I swap into the remote turret seat to continue going upwards as I force the opponent below my ship, or above my ship by pitching up. That way my turret can continue to shoot them by pushing my ship under theirs. So here you can see I'm using a little bit of down strafe to force him up above me. That way I can shoot above that sort of blind spot area. Go on to another video here. So once again, as you look here, the ship has a ton of firepower. It has 2 size 5s, so it's half that of a Connie, which has 4 size 5, but it also has 2 size 3s. And the top 2 size 3s are on a turret, so you actually have like 20-25 VJoy, a really large cone of fire. You have almost a 50-degree cone of fire. It isn't able to shoot quite downwards. And then your other 2 guns can do heavy damage. So effectively, some of my strats with this ship is when the opponent seems really, really agile and I can't get nose on them, I'll push myself to hopefully speed wall in one of the directions and then slowly pitch up and then down strafe. Sometimes with VTOL, sometimes without VTOL. And that'll allow me to shoot the opponent while they waste a whole bunch of their boost. And as soon as they're out of boost, I generally do one of 2 things. If they still seem super agile, I will try to keep them above the top half of my ship. That way my turret can shoot them with this higher VJoy but lower DPS. And if they seem like they aren't quite that agile, I'll do something else. And what I'll do is I'll instead push them underneath my ship. That way my 2 size 5s can really lay into the damage there. So you can see we'll pull up another fight here. I think this one I might actually lose. One of these I lose, but fast forward. Here we go. You'll notice you can actually also decouple roll once you go into the inter-remote turret operator mode. And I have a tutorial on my YouTube channel about how to go into this mode and everything, and I can go into it briefly, but you notice that when I don't pitch up, the opponent's able to get into my blind spot. And you have to be really careful and train this a little bit, because if you do the wrong pitch yaw maneuver with the wrong strafe, you actually black out very quickly as it holds those inputs. So here I feel the opponent's a little bit tired, so I'm trying to get that down pitch, but I kind of think about that probably a little bit too soon. So I try to tire them out again. I pitch up, start shooting at them with the rear guns while he's trying to chase me and use all his boost to push in. And fortunately, I think he runs into a platform there. It's kind of funny. And one of the big things is also is you might think, oh, this ship has a huge disadvantage at ranged dogfights and stuff. And in a lot of circumstances, that's true. If you're playing as a lot of heavier fighters with larger cross sections, you have a disadvantage at range where lighter fighters can just dodge all your shots when you can't. In a lot of ways, that's still true with the Prowler. As you can see, I have to push this guy, and I take a lot of nose damage. I don't get red, but I take a lot of damage. But the thing is I don't have to do that with the Prowler. And you might ask, okay, why don't you have to do it? What makes the Prowler special? And what makes the Prowler special is a few things. One of the things is it actually has stealth mechanics, right? So at ranges, if I extend really, really far, I actually become invisible to my opponent, and I can build for that, and all of a sudden, I start regenerating shields because they can't see where I'm at. Another thing is once someone passes over me or starts pushing onto me, I have the option that I can just hold the W key away from them. So rather than starting with having to rely on my back strafe or my side strafe or up strafes and down strafes to create space, I can actually just go straight and shoot them while they're behind me. And it doesn't make me invincible, but it makes it a very difficult fight because unlike the Asgard, which is a sort of similar class of ship, here my ship freezes, unfortunately, so that causes me to take a lot of damage. But unlike other ships, I can always get shots on my opponent no matter how good they are in the ship. I might lose, but it's not going to be a free battle. This opponent's red nose, and I had that freeze there that could have caused an issue to me. And by the way, if you are having that freeze, I found that issue was caused by process lasso, and I had this like pro bouncing enabled that supposedly is really good for your game. As soon as I turned it off, I stopped these new freezes I've been experiencing. And here I should be pitching up, but you'll notice I'm trying to use my VTOL, which ends up hurting my roll. I shouldn't have done that, and I should have been using my top turret gun to try to get those last hits on that opponent. But it's so cool because there's all these different mechanics with this ship that you can try to utilize. There's a huge desire to upstrafe with this ship, a huge desire to downstrafe with this ship. There's a huge desire to sort of do this sort of Star Wars Millennium Falcon shooting back out the rear as someone's chasing you. And you can experience as a solo pilot, which is something I find really cool and oftentimes missing, because a lot of times to play those ships, you have to have 2 people or 3 people even. This ship benefits from having 2 people significantly, but the great part is because it's soloable, it means I can play the ship solo in the PU or Arena Commander, which gives the opportunity more often for if someone hops into my lobbies for them to experience that gameplay also. I think oftentimes the problem is people aren't playing the multi-crew ships to start, so a lot of times you can't enjoy that gameplay, especially in lobbies where you have people are a lot more sweats. So here you can see we're practicing like, hey, how do you extend with this? Because I'm still pretty new to trying this against competitive pilots, and this is again where I find you just forward boost, you hold the boost button there, you pitch up, and then once they get really underneath you, you can do something like change you to VTOL engines and then downstrafe because he pushed under you, and now he's burning and he's getting these shots while it's difficult to stay underneath him, let alone make sure you don't crash into him. And then you just go back into what you were before. And you can just oscillate between all of these maneuvers to really exhaust your opponent. And if they get too far away, you can go into stealth, you can do the barrel rolls, because you have such strong barrel rolls with this because you have the VTOL thrusters to be uber evasive. And even just 1 second of shield regen when you have six of these shield generators can be pretty nuts. We'll keep on going here. Forgot which video we were on, but let's go. Just keep on going forward. Who's this one versus? So this is a really good pilot. This is someone who's highly ranked in JW's Discord, and you can just see how unnatural it is to really fight against fly style. You can see my VTOL thrusters are in the downstrafe motion, which again, a lot of people don't realize because this isn't evident on SPV or Urkel DPS. It doesn't tell you that this has a strong downstrafe. You assume it has strong upstrafes because it has VTOLs that rotate, but a lot of times it isn't readily apparent to people that also has strong downstrafes. And you can see the space dust going upwards as he has to chase with his full engine towards me. But the problem is if you do want to fight this ship, and I have a video in here somewhere that I do lose. The way that I lose is the person really has to make sure that they are fighting me without their nose on. So you can see this pilot right here. he comes in and he's able to make sure that he's pushing in and doing these pre-noses to stay off my nose. He's not committing to try and get damage on me too soon throughout this fight we went through earlier. Let's go through another video here. This is a pretty good FFK pilot in our group. And you see I'm using the VTOL thrusters to down strafe, but now I'm moving here. I go into the W mode, and I'm just pitching up as I get shots as I rotate nose back onto him. And once I have nose back onto him, I'm able to shoot with those guns again and just get a whole bunch of lighting up. And then as I'm rolling a little bit, I get guns back on. And here I can just continue. I don't actually have to swap back because he's staying up above me. He pushes underneath me, so I should have swapped to VTOL and done down strafe there to try to push into him, but here I think I'm just playing casually since I don't feel in too much harm's way since I don't have red nose or red body yet at that point, so here's another really good pilot. This guy's ranked in JW Discord also fairly highly. And they're playing as a cards wall, and this is actually a pretty difficult fight. I think he actually eventually beat me in a series of fights after I think 3 or 4 of them, because this is really able to keep nose off because it has such good strafes in all the different directions and stuff. But you can see even with those strafes how difficult it is to stay right underneath this platform, the amount of boost that you have to use. But just look at how cinematic this is. It is such a cool thing, I think, both to fight against and to play as, because it's only 2 size 3s. It's not an insane amount of damage, but if you're knowledgeable enough, you can know how to evade it, and it's a little bit of a novelty, but it's such a novelty. It's such a rare novelty because this isn't really anywhere else in the game. You can do this with the base Super Hornet, the Mark 1 Super Hornet, I think, and I immediately can't think of anything else. There might be, but you have to be careful whenever you get under these ships. You can see there I actually got some ram damage when he got underneath me. And part of the strategy is sometimes just to kind of outrate the turret as you just float around in front of it. So you can see I'm trying to finish the fight here by pushing him in the bottom zone. You might be like, oh, but you're missing out on these top DPS, but that 2 size 5s is just quite a bit stronger if you can really lay into them. So this is a really good pilot. This is a Ruby ranked pilot in non-FFK Ruby ranked pilot in Jonathan Winter's Discord. Here you can notice I do some shenanigans. I'm trying to figure out how to do these barrel rolls to dodge stuff, and I'm trying to down strafe. Here I figured out, oh, he's just chasing me, so I can just swap to the gunner seat and lay into him. And he's like, oh, I'm not letting you get away to get full shield, so he's going to push into me. And eventually, he's going back, and he lost all his shields because he was pushing in a straight line towards me at speed wall. And I still have shields because I'm that tanky. And now, if I actually VTOL thrust here well enough, I might be able to get some shields back. And I'm trying to just ping his shield so he doesn't get too much regen here. So here I'm doing the backwards corkscrew, and you notice shields are getting occasionally pinged, but it's not a ton of damage, and I could commit to it harder here. But I get just a couple shots in as he pushes in to try to be more aggressive, because he knows that if I get any of that shield regen, there's going to be a problem. And as he pushes up, don't even need to use my turret guns yet. I can just hit him up here if he stays at mid-range. I really only need the turret gun if he pushes into close range and actually goes in to knife fight the ship, which is what a lot of people who are trying to counter you will do. Very few people will be like, oh, that multi-crew ship, I have to play against it at super far range because it can counter me, because this isn't a very commonly known thing in the community. So I think I went through this fight already. Let's see. I think I went through that one also. That one seems bugged out. All right, here's another good one. So this is, again, versus a really good knife fighter at FFK. You see, I'm at the edge of blacking out. When I was talking to him, I think in one of these fights, he was also on the edge of blacking out the entire time, just with the craziness that you can do with the different strafes and mechanics on this ship. And here he's pushing over on the ship as I'm trying to down strafe into him. And this isn't a terrible idea because this does reduce my DPS as my 2 size 5s can't hit him up there. And it's so good, in fact, that I actually end up blacking out while trying to attack him here. And here I'm fully out of shields. I start down strafing and trying to get him up above me, it looks like. And you can see him knife fighting and keeping his nose off me here. I don't know if I might actually end up losing this one here. But you can see the danger of knife fighting that close, which is you do get rams there. But you just see the level of skill that you have to knife fight this thing is incredibly high, because that's one of the people I consider to be one of the best knife fighters in the game. And you have to stay so close to it, and it gets so close to the point that it's almost dangerous at times. Especially if you're not constantly training against it all the time. So if you want to train against the Prowler, you fight against me or maybe another FFK person who picks it up. So here, this versus Saber, just to mix it up. You might think, okay, maybe a medium fire with like a little extra firepower and a little extra tankiness can kind of counter the Prowler. Try triangulate through different ship types. That's where, again, the Prowler is kind of scary because versus some of these larger ships, you have the VTOL thruster just to barrel roll, dodge their weapons, like the Hammerhead, for instance. The Hammerhead I struggle with even in a stock Scorpius to handle it, just because you don't have the strafes to disjoint a lot of the fire and stuff, and it just seems annoying to me to keep on doing hit and run attempt suit against the opponent when they're regenning and such. But if I go through with this ship and I can do a barrel roll, all of a sudden I can even fight against a ship like that. So here again, you can see this fight. If you fight in that 300 to 600 meter range, it's very dangerous. It's the same thing as fighting the Guardian. It's even a little bit worse because you just have so much more shields on the ship's shield regen as well, and you have such higher gimbal range on the ship that this range is both a little bit closer and a little bit farther. It's a little bit farther, maybe for like you might be able to be a little bit farther at range because of the cross section, but you have to remember again, it says the VTOL and the larger cone of fire and more weaponry to make up for maybe what the Guardian might not have. And you can see a lot of shots hitting this nose, and a lot of times what I'll do is if my nose does turn red in like one of these engagements, what I'll do is I'll turn around to the turret and try to start soaking up bottom damage to the body. But here I don't have to do that quite yet, fortunately. So look at another video here. This is versus a guy who's a really good dogfighter and stuff. I've seen him in some of our more casual tourneys and everything, and he's done fairly well in them. And you can see he's trying to get to that sort of range where he can sort of maybe wiggle some of the shots and then trade to fire. But again, it's just so much firepower that you have to dodge. It's one of the same things with one of the things also about size 5 weapons is they have longer effective range. They can go up to 3 kilometers long. There's other ships that can only go 1.5, but the bigger thing is just you have so much firepower here. You have 4 guns firing at the opponent in an almost 50-degree cone the entire time for them to have to deal with. So if you just wiggle at that middle range, you'll be really countered. And I like this for the game because it does something interesting, which a lot of people complain about, which is this game being too aim-centric, right? One of the biggest gripes I hear is this game's too aim-centric, it's too arcadey, it's too aim-centric. And yet, to beat the Prowler, in this case, again, whether it was balanced a little bit stronger, a little weaker, you have to be incredibly positional, and it rewards people who are experts in playing positionally, whether that is at really close ranges or whether that's sort of playing in between the ranges at long range. And I'm not too big of a fan of kiting gameplay and that sort of stuff, but I think there's something to be said that it's more distance-oriented than a purely aim-centric model. But rewarding someone who's able to play incredibly positionally is great. And if you see all these people who are fighting me, why are they losing? They're losing because they're staying nose to nose with my ship. Not just that, though. They're losing because they're staying they're staying too still in a static position anywhere on my ship, so my gunner can shoot them. the way you have to beat the ship is you have to be dynamically going to every side of it, getting your shots in, dynamically flying, shooting. You have to be very positional. You need to outrate the gimbals. You need to be hovering in between that 100 meter range, hovering out of side of that 600 meter range, going back and forth, kind of like the Guardian, but to an even larger extent. I wouldn't say it's a harder fight than the Guardian, but I think it can provide a fight that's more fun than the Guardian, because it's not just something that you're going to be able to kite at range as efficiently. You would never be able to kite this at range in an XVX battle, in a squadron battle or the PU. It just would take too long. It's impractical. Inside a squadron battle, if this was allowed in squadron battle, the way you dynamically fight this is you'd probably need something like a second loadout for your Gladius with attritions or scatter guns, and you'd be incredibly rewarded for getting in close and dynamically sort of punching and bob and weaving this target. Let's see, I think I have a couple more videos I can go through here and then bring it to a close. So it looks like this is the very final video, and then I can delete these ones so I can make space for Battlefield 6 as it comes up this next weekend, which I might do a video for, just for some random tips I've gotten for that as well. The sneak peek being that the LMG is awesome, and I was able to get a 30+ kill streak with it, because a lot of people don't realize the LMG in that game can two-shot headshot if you put on the right modifications. So without further ado, the final fight here, which is just with an FFK member who's a bro. Again, this shows the power of having great community. I'm trying to just shoot him to troll him, because I was like, he's just going to run the station anyways. But if I started this video with no prior context, I would think, as a random PU player, a fighter should be able to beat a solo multi-crew ship like a Constellation, and I'd put maybe a Prowler in that same bucket of category. I would not think, before this video, if I had no prior context, that even a red-nosed Gladius like that might lose to a Prowler. So my hope is that CIG keeps these really cool game mechanics, improves on them so you don't have to use weird mechanics like binding your inter-remote turret manual and your auto gimbal button to the same button, and incorporate things like these decoupled rolls, pitch, and yaws to the normal gameplay and make these more commonplace. And hopefully you think these things are cool too, and maybe incorporate them in some of your flight in the future. If you found any of these things helpful, I'd appreciate it if you drop a like. If you have any questions or ideas for other videos you'd like to see, drop them in the comments below. And if that's not your thing, feel free to always just reach out to me, DM me on Discord if you like to maybe just have me explain some of these things in more one-to-one setting. So, see you in verse. Have fun.